This video was made thanks to this awesome request. Thank you for the title suggestion, and happy watching.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Curikens. If you're a fan of My Hero Academia, especially awesome fanfiction stories all about Deku, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow anime fans, and subscribe so you never miss a new upload. Also, if you have an awesome idea or title for the next fanfiction video, drop it in the comment below. I'd love to read your suggestions. And hey, if you want to support the channel even more and keep me extra motivated to create awesome content, consider joining our channel membership. By becoming a member, you'll unlock cool perks like exclusive loyalty badges and custom stickers you can use in the comments. If you've already joined, thank you so much. Your support truly means the world to me and helps keep this channel going. Alright, let's get right into the story.
The day Izuku Midoriya was born, every light inside the hospital flickered. Blink, blink, boom. Every electronic monitor froze for less than a second before returning to normal. Doctors assumed it was a power fluctuation. It wasn't. The newborn had opened his eyes. Tiny pieces of metal floated above the operating table. Pens drifted into the air. Medical carts rolled backward without anyone touching them. Before panic spread through the room, everything gently returned to its place. Only Inko noticed. Izuku, the baby, simply stared at the ceiling with calm green eyes. Years passed. While other children celebrated discovering their quirks, Izuku wished for silence. He couldn't remember a single day without hearing voices. Not spoken voices. Thoughts. I'm hungry. I forgot my homework. That toy looks expensive. I hope nobody notices I cheated. Thousands. Millions. Every nearby thought reached his ears at the same time. It never stopped. Even while sleeping. Even with his eyes closed. Even inside his own house. Izuku slowly learned that nobody else could hear them. Only him. When he was 4 years old, another accident happened. He sneezed. Rocks outside the house suddenly floated. Chairs spun through the living room. Television sets hovered in the air. Windows rattled. Crack. Plates cracked without anyone touching them. Inko immediately hugged him. It's okay. Mommy's here. Izuku wasn't crying. He simply looked around with an exhausted face. I'm sorry. After consulting countless scientists and support engineers, Inko finally met a retired inventor who specialized in psychic suppression devices. After months of work, 2 strange antenna-like limiters were completed. Their stems were white. Their rounded tips were dark green. They looked harmless. The inventor carefully placed them onto Izuku's head. Click. Instantly. Silence. The endless flood of thoughts became manageable. Floating furniture slowly settled back onto the floor. Izuku blinked. Quiet. For the first time in his life. His own thoughts were louder than everyone else's. The antennae did not remove his abilities. They merely restrained them. Without them, his psychic output would continue growing. Telepathy. Psychokinesis. Teleportation. Clairvoyance. Memory alteration. Reality manipulation. Time leap. And countless abilities he hadn't even discovered yet. The inventor looked pale after measuring his brainwaves. This isn't a quirk. He quietly packed his equipment. It's something completely different. Izuku entered elementary school pretending to be ordinary. He answered questions normally. He smiled when necessary. He intentionally scored slightly below perfect. Standing out only created trouble. Yet trouble always found him. A bully threw an eraser. Izuku didn't even look. The eraser froze in midair. Everyone blinked. Before anyone noticed, it dropped naturally onto the floor. Must have bounced. The teacher accepted the explanation. Izuku sighed. That had been close. Bakugo Katsuki never understood him. Oi! Nerd! Bakugo slammed his desk. Why do you always look so sleepy? Izuku simply stared, because he had spent the entire morning listening to over 200 students thinking at once. He already knew today's math quiz. He knew who forgot their lunch. He knew who had a crush on whom. He knew which teacher planned a surprise assignment. He wished he knew none of it. I'm just tired. Bakugo clicked his tongue. You're weird. Years later, doctors delivered their diagnosis. Izuku has no quirk. Inko smiled awkwardly. She already knew. What flowed inside her son's body wasn't anything listed in the quirk registry. His powers ignored every scientific explanation. They simply existed. Izuku didn't care. Calling himself quirkless made life easier. Less attention. Fewer questions. More peace. Or so he hoped. One afternoon, while walking home, he stopped beside a small river. Without moving a muscle, he glanced at the water. Ripples spread. Fish floated gently into the air. Birds froze mid-flight. Fallen leaves reversed direction. Time itself slowed for several seconds. Then everything resumed naturally. Nobody noticed. Except Izuku. Still working. He adjusted one antenna. Click. The strange distortions disappeared. That evening, Inko prepared dinner. She smiled warmly. How was school? Normal. Did anything happen? Nothing important. He didn't mention accidentally hearing every conversation within several kilometers. He didn't mention stopping a speeding truck by freezing it in place for half a second. He didn't mention teleporting a falling cat back onto a rooftop. Small problems. Nothing worth discussing. Later that night, Izuku stood beside his bedroom window. The city sparkled beneath the stars. Voices echoed endlessly inside his mind. Some happy, some angry, some lonely. He quietly adjusted both antennae again. Click. The noise faded. Finally, peace. He closed the curtains, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, hopefully nothing happens. Far away, unknown to him, destiny had already begun moving. And no amount of psychic power would stop the strange chain of events waiting at you. High school. Morning arrived peacefully, or at least, it looked peaceful. Inside Izuku's head, it was anything but. I overslept. Did I leave the stove on? I hope today's sale isn't sold out. Bakugo is so loud. Coffee, I need coffee. Thousands of thoughts overlapped into an endless stream. Izuku quietly walked through Musudafu with both hands in his pockets. His dark green-tipped antennae reduced the overwhelming psychic noise, but they couldn't block everything. He had long accepted that complete silence didn't exist. Before class began, Bakugo kicked open the classroom door. Bang! Oi, nerd! Everyone looked over. Bakugo smirked. Don't tell me you're still pretending to be quirkless. Izuku glanced at him. I am. Bakugo scoffed. Inside Bakugo's mind, however, he's hiding something. One day I'll prove it. Izuku sighed. He didn't need telepathy to know Bakugo would never give up. After school, Izuku walked toward his favorite dessert shop. His destination never changed. Coffee jelly. He stepped inside. The shop was quiet. The refrigerator hummed softly. He picked up a cup of coffee jelly and paid without saying much. Finally, peace. He sat alone near the window. This is nice. He lifted a spoon. Before it reached his mouth. Boom. A massive explosion echoed several streets away. Everyone inside the cafe screamed. What happened? Is that a villain? Run. Izuku remained seated. He already knew. His telepathy had reached the source several seconds earlier. A sludge villain. Bakugo. Crowd gathering. Heroes arriving too slowly. He looked at the untouched coffee jelly. Seriously. Outside, panic spread across the streets. People fled in every direction. Sirens wailed. The sludge villain laughed while squeezing Bakugo inside its muddy body. Give up. Bakugo struggled violently. Damn you. Heroes surrounded the monster but couldn't approach. Every attack slipped through its liquid body. Izuku quietly stood at the edge of the crowd. He hid behind a telephone pole. This should be enough. He slightly narrowed his eyes. Far above the battlefield, nothing happened. At least, nothing visible. Then, the sludge villain suddenly stopped laughing. Its body trembled. Without warning. The entire monster floated into the air. People gasped. What? It's flying. Who's using telekinesis? The villain screamed. Put me down. Izuku calmly continued eating another spoonful of coffee jelly. He wasn't even looking directly anymore. The monster kept rising. Higher, higher, higher. Inside the floating sludge body, Bakugo blinked. What the hell? His thoughts raced. Is this some hero? Who's doing this? I can't see anyone. Izuku heard every word. No need to answer. The sludge villain reached cloud level. It struggled desperately. Its muddy body twisted wildly. Let me down. Izuku casually flicked his finger. Tap. Boom. A powerful burst of invisible psychic force compressed the sludge into a dense sphere. The creature couldn't move. Its liquid body hardened under overwhelming pressure. Heroes below stared upward. Mount Lady frowned. I've never seen a quirk like that. Death Arms scratched his head. Whose attack is it? No one knew. Izuku finished the last bite of coffee jelly. Delicious. He stood up. Without another glance. Snap. The compressed sludge shot several kilometers into the sky. It disappeared beyond the clouds. The monster was still alive, but completely trapped inside a psychic prison suspended high above the atmosphere. It wouldn't be returning anytime soon. Bakugo gently floated back toward the ground. He landed safely. Tap. Everyone rushed over. Are you okay? Bakugo ignored them. His crimson eyes searched every rooftop, every alley, every window. Nobody answered. From another street, All Might finally arrived. Too late. He stared at the empty battlefield. It's over. Death Arms nodded slowly. Someone saved the boy. Who? We don't know. All Might frowned. He had felt no familiar quirk activation. Only an invisible force so precise that not even a single civilian had been injured. His instincts warned him. Whoever had done this was extraordinarily powerful. Meanwhile, Izuku quietly walked home. His dessert bag swung gently beside him. Inside his mind, everyone in the city discussed the mysterious savior. Was it a new hero? Maybe the government. Was it All Might? Could it be an Esper quirk? Izuku sighed. Too noisy. He lightly adjusted one antenna. Click. Most of the voices faded. Better. That evening, Inko smiled while preparing dinner. Did anything interesting happen today? Izuku thought for a moment. I managed to finish my coffee jelly. That's good. Before a villain interrupted, Inko laughed softly. That sounds unlucky. It was. He never mentioned lifting an entire villain into the sky with a thought. For him, protecting people without attracting attention was much easier than explaining powers no one would understand. Unfortunately, someone had already begun investigating the mysterious psychic that appeared in Musudafu. The next morning began exactly the way Izuku hoped. Quiet. He finished breakfast, grabbed his school bag, adjusted both antennae. Click, click. Everything felt stable. Good. He left the house. The streets of Musudafu were already crowded. Students hurried toward school. Office workers stared at their phones. Shop owners prepared for another busy day. Inside Izuku's mind, countless thoughts echoed. I forgot my wallet. I hope today's lunch is curry. That cat is cute. My boss is going to yell again. He filtered them automatically. Years of practice made it easy. Until, tick, a faint metallic sound came from the left antenna. Izuku stopped walking. Question mark. He reached toward his head. The antenna had shifted slightly. Less than 1 millimeter. For anyone else, it meant nothing. For Izuku, it was a disaster. Buzz. His psychic limiter weakened. A faint green glow spread around him. Small pebbles beside the sidewalk floated upward. Coins inside people's pockets trembled. Traffic lights flickered. Birds suddenly changed direction. Nobody noticed yet. Izuku calmly adjusted the antenna. Not here. Before he could touch it. Crack. The antenna slipped farther. A powerful wave of psychic energy burst outward. Glass windows vibrated. Parked bicycles rose into the air. Cars lifted several centimeters above the road. Street lamps bent without breaking. Hundreds of leaves spiraled upward like a green tornado. Pedestrians froze. What's happening? Earthquake? No. The cars are floating. Panic spread instantly. Inside a nearby convenience store, every product left the shelves. Snacks, drinks, magazines, everything floated weightlessly. Cash registers opened by themselves. Coins spun through the air. Cling, cling, cling. Inside a nearby apartment, televisions turned on. Lights blinked repeatedly. Water flowed upward from kitchen sinks. Pets floated helplessly. Cats meowed loudly. Dogs barked non-stop. Izuku closed his eyes. This is troublesome. He couldn't fix the antenna while maintaining precise control over millions of moving objects. One mistake. The city would notice him. High above Musudafu, a passenger airplane suddenly drifted several meters off course. Inside the cockpit, warning alarms blared. Beep, beep, beep. The pilots struggled to understand. Then the aircraft gently returned to normal. Back on the street, floating cars slowly began rotating. People screamed, "Help! Someone stop this!" A child nearly floated away before an invisible force gently lowered him back to the ground. Izuku instinctively protected every civilian first. Always. Even while losing control. 5 seconds. That was enough. He quietly whispered. Time leap. Tick. The world froze. Color disappeared. Sound vanished. Everything became gray. Every floating object remained motionless. Only Izuku continued moving. He walked calmly through the frozen city. 5 seconds. That was all his personal timeline allowed before reality corrected itself. He reached for the loose antenna. There. Click. It locked back into place. He checked the second limiter as well. Perfect. 3, 2, 1. Time resumed. Tick. All floating vehicles landed softly. Tap. Coins dropped harmlessly into open cash registers. Cling. Birds resumed flying. Water returned to every sink. Street lamps straightened. The convenience store shelves looked untouched. People blinked. Was I imagining things? Did anyone else feel strange? Some scratched their heads. Others simply continued walking. Their memories had become vague after the temporal correction. Izuku quietly continued toward school. Problem solved. He checked the antenna again. Firm. Stable. Safe. At U.A. High school. Shota Aizawa suddenly looked out a classroom window. His tired eyes narrowed. For less than a second, he had sensed something impossible. Not a quirk. Not an earthquake. Not electromagnetic interference. Something else. Odd. He yawned. Then continued grading papers. Far away, inside a hidden laboratory, multiple monitoring screens suddenly lit up. Red warnings flashed repeatedly. Warning. Unknown spatial distortion detected. Localized temporal anomaly. Psychic energy spike recorded. Scientists exchanged nervous glances. Did someone manipulate time? Another shook his head. That's impossible. The chief researcher stared silently at the graph. Nothing is impossible. That evening, Izuku stopped by his favorite dessert shop again. He bought another coffee jelly, sat beside the window, and enjoyed the rare silence. Today was exhausting. He had almost exposed himself to the entire city. Next time, he would inspect his antennae more carefully. Unfortunately, someone else had already started searching for the mysterious individual capable of bending space, gravity, and even time itself. The day of the U.A. entrance exam finally arrived. Izuku woke before sunrise. He calmly folded his blanket, washed his face, adjusted both antennae. Click, click, stable, good enough. He grabbed his school bag and quietly left home. Outside the academy, hundreds of nervous applicants gathered. Everyone talked about strategies, robot weak points, combat styles, their chances of passing. Izuku heard every single thought. I need at least 60 points. I hope I don't embarrass myself. Those robots look huge. What if I fail? He sighed. Too loud. A familiar explosive voice echoed nearby. Oi! Bakugo glared at him. Don't get in my way, nerd. Izuku looked over. I wasn't planning to. Inside Bakugo's mind, I'll crush everyone, especially him. Izuku ignored it. Inside the examination hall, Present Mike enthusiastically explained the rules. Destroy robots. Earn points. Go beyond. The crowd cheered. Izuku simply listened. He had already read everyone's thoughts before the explanation even began. There were no surprises. The entrance gates opened. Boom. Hundreds of students rushed forward. Explosions erupted. Ice covered the streets. Electricity flashed everywhere. Robots fired lasers. Metal clashed constantly. Clang. Boom. Crash. Izuku quietly walked through the battlefield with both hands inside his pockets. He wasn't in a hurry. A 3-point robot charged toward him. Its mechanical eyes glowed red. Whir. The machine raised its steel arm. Before it could attack, Izuku glanced upward. The robot vanished. Pop. No explosion. No smoke. It simply disappeared. Far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the robot silently appeared in empty space. It continued walking for several seconds before drifting endlessly through orbit. Another robot targeted him. Then another. And another. Each disappeared the same way. Hop. 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 Students nearby froze. Where did they go? Did someone destroy them? I didn't even hear an explosion. Izuku kept walking. Inside the monitoring room, teachers watched dozens of screens. Smintos frowned. Robots are disappearing. Midnight blinked. Teleportation. Power loader checked the system. There's no damage report. Principal Nezu smiled thoughtfully. Interesting. All Might leaned forward. That green-haired boy. Izuku continued through the city. Every robot within several hundred meters suddenly vanished. One after another. Hop. 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 They reappeared thousands of kilometers above the planet, safely drifting through space. No debris. No collateral damage. No civilians at risk. Clean. Efficient. Silent. A nearby applicant stared at him. Did you do something? Izuku answered honestly. A little. Before the student could ask another question, a giant robot alarm echoed across the battlefield. Warning. Warning. Zero-pointer activated. Boom. The enormous machine emerged from behind several buildings. Students screamed. Run. It's worth 0 points. Get away. Everyone scattered. Izuku looked at the towering machine. That's inconvenient. The zero-pointer took one heavy step. Boom. Another. Boom. The ground shook violently. Concrete cracked beneath its weight. Ochako Uraraka tripped while escaping. Ah! Her ankle twisted. She fell beside a pile of broken concrete. The zero-pointer continued approaching. Boom. 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 Students watched helplessly. Izuku sighed softly. I suppose I should help. He looked directly at the gigantic robot. For a brief moment, space itself distorted. The zero-pointer disappeared. Every student froze. What? Where did it go? Far beyond the moon, the enormous machine suddenly appeared in deep space. Its engines were inactive. Its massive body slowly drifted into the endless darkness. Never to return. Back at the exam site, the earthquake stopped. Dust settled. Silence filled the battlefield. Izuku walked toward Ochako. He lightly pointed at the broken concrete trapping her leg. The rubble floated upward. Tap. It gently landed several meters away. Ochako stared at him. Thank you. You're welcome. He helped her stand, then quietly continued walking toward the exit. Inside the observation room, every teacher remained silent. Power loader repeatedly checked satellite feeds. We found it. Everyone turned. The zero-pointer is outside Earth. Silence. Even present Mike stopped talking. All Might slowly stood. Outside. Power loader nodded. Outside the planet. Principal Nezu smiled wider. Fascinating. Aizawa narrowed his tired eyes. That isn't normal. Later that afternoon, applicants nervously waited for the results. Some celebrated. Others worried. Izuku quietly stopped by a convenience store. He bought his favorite coffee jelly, sat alone on a nearby bench, and enjoyed every spoonful in peace. Today wasn't too troublesome. Unfortunately for him, inside U.A., every teacher had already agreed on one thing. The quiet green-haired applicant with strange antennae had become the Academy's highest priority for observation. 1 week after the entrance exam, acceptance letters arrived across Japan. Inside the Midoriya household, Inko opened the mailbox with excitement. Izuku, your letter is here. Izuku looked up from his coffee jelly. Finally, he carried the package into the living room. Instead of paper, a small holographic device rested inside. He pressed the button. Beep. All Might's smiling projection appeared. Young Midoriya, congratula. Before the message could continue, Izuku had already heard All Might's thoughts through the recording equipment. He's definitely getting accepted. That teleportation was unbelievable. I know. He quietly watched the rest anyway. There was no surprise left. Days later, U.A. High School welcomed its newest students. Class 1A gathered inside the classroom. Everyone looked around curiously. Ocha smiled. Iida adjusted his glasses. Bakugo looked annoyed. Izuku calmly sat near the window. He quietly ate another cup of coffee jelly. He's eating already. Those antennae look strange. Is he really quirkless? Why does he look so sleepy? Their thoughts echoed non-stop. Izuku ignored them. The classroom doors slid open. Shota Aizawa entered inside his yellow sleeping bag. You're all late. Nobody argued. The room immediately became silent. Aizawa slowly looked across every student. His gaze stopped on Izuku. Green hair, strange antennae, a motionless face, exactly as described in the entrance report. Follow me. Minutes later, the class stood outside for the quirk apprehension test. Baseball throw. 50-meter dash, long jump, grip strength, normal physical evaluations. Aizawa folded his arms. There are no ceremonies. Heroes work immediately. Everyone nodded. The baseball throw came first. Students displayed flashy quirks, explosions, ice, engines, gravity manipulation. Applause echoed repeatedly. Finally, Izuku stepped forward. Aizawa looked directly into his eyes. Throw. Izuku casually tossed the baseball. He barely used any strength. The ball floated peacefully through the air. Then, it disappeared. Everyone blinked. Again, Bakugo shouted. What did you do? Izuku looked upward. It's orbiting. Power loader's monitoring drone immediately searched nearby satellites. Within seconds, the baseball appeared on radar, floating peacefully several hundred kilometers above Earth. Silence. Aizawa activated erasure. His hair rose. Red energy surrounded his eyes. Let's see. His quirk directly targeted Izuku. Nothing happened. The antennae remained active. The baseball continued orbiting. Izuku calmly stared back. Is something wrong? Aizawa frowned. He increased his concentration. Erasure had never failed before. Quirks always stopped. Mutations weakened. Energy vanished. Yet, nothing changed. Impossible. Izuku tilted his head. My abilities aren't quirks. The sentence sounded completely ordinary. However, the moment Aizawa focused harder, something unexpected happened. Their eyes remained connected. For less than 1 second, Aizawa accidentally perceived the true scale of Izuku's mind. Boom. An endless psychic ocean stretched beyond imagination. Stars floated through empty space. Countless timelines branched endlessly. Planets moved like tiny marbles. Millions of voices echoed simultaneously. Past, present, future. Every possibility existed together. Vast psychic energy surged like an infinite universe. Exclamation mark. Aizawa instantly broke eye contact. He stumbled backward. Blood trickled from his nose. His vision blurred. His head pounded violently. Throb. Throb. He grabbed his forehead. Students rushed toward him. Sensei, are you okay? Recovery girl, who had been observing nearby, hurried over. What happened? Aizawa slowly steadied himself. His breathing remained uneven. He looked toward Izuku again. This time, only briefly. Don't use your ability. Izuku blinked. I didn't. Exactly. Aizawa understood. That terrifying pressure hadn't been an attack. It had simply been the natural state of Izuku's consciousness. Trying to erase it was like trying to erase gravity itself. Principal Nezu watched through the security cameras. He quietly placed both paws together. Remarkable. All Might stood beside him. Even erasure didn't work. Nezu nodded. Because whatever young Midoriya possesses falls completely outside the quirk system. Outside, the physical tests continued. Izuku deliberately achieved average scores. He intentionally held back, running, jumping, throwing. Everything appeared ordinary. Only Aizawa noticed. Every result had been carefully calculated. Not too high, not too low. Perfectly average. He's hiding everything. After school ended, Izuku quietly walked home beneath the evening sky. He adjusted one antenna. Click. The endless thoughts around him softened once again. Today was louder than usual. He stopped by his favorite cafe, ordered coffee jelly, sat beside the window, and finally enjoyed several peaceful minutes. Far away, inside the faculty office, Aizawa stared silently at Izuku's student file. At the bottom of the page, he wrote only one sentence. Danger level. Impossible to evaluate. Then he closed the folder. For the first time in years, Shota Aizawa genuinely had no idea how strong one of his students truly was. The first week at UA passed quietly. For everyone except Izuku, he already knew every student's habits without asking a single question. Not because he observed them. Because he heard them. Constantly. I forgot my notebook. I wonder what lunch is today. I need to train harder. I hope All Might praises me. Izuku slowly stirred his coffee jelly. Too much information. That afternoon, All Might entered the classroom wearing his hero costume. The entire class immediately became excited. Except one student. Izuku simply looked up from his dessert. Today, All Might raised one fist. You'll participate in indoor combat training. Cheers filled the classroom. Teams were assigned randomly. Hero team. Villain team. Izuku glanced toward the monitor. His opponent appeared immediately. Villain team. Bakugo Katsuki. Iida Tenya. Unfortunate. Bakugo grinned. Inside his mind. Finally. I'll crush him. He won't hide anymore. Izuku heard every word. How noisy. The mock city stood empty. Abandoned office buildings lined the streets. Inside one tower, Bakugo prepared an ambush. Explosive sweat ignited across both palms. Come already. Izuku entered the building alone. He didn't hurry. He simply walked, hands inside his pockets, antennae perfectly straight. Bakugo listened carefully. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Thud, thud, thud. He smiled. Got you. Boom. An explosion blasted through the corridor. Dust filled the room. Bakugo rushed forward, only to stop. The hallway was empty. What? 40 meters away. Izuku calmly continued walking. He hadn't moved. Instead, he had quietly whispered one thought. Third floor. The thought flowed directly into Bakugo's mind. Bakugo immediately believed it, without realizing why. He went upstairs. Boom. Bakugo blasted toward the staircase. Izuku turned left. Thank you. Inside Bakugo's head, another thought suddenly appeared. The bomb room is on the roof. Bakugo changed direction again. Boom. I'm coming. Meanwhile, the actual bomb remained untouched inside the basement. Iida faithfully guarded it. Everything is proceeding according to plan. At least, that's what he believed. From the observation room, students watched through security cameras. Kirishima scratched his head. Where's Midoriya? Ochako blinked. He isn't chasing Bakugo. Mina laughed. Then why is Bakugo running everywhere? Inside Bakugo's mind, Izuku quietly inserted another harmless suggestion. He escaped through the west corridor. Bakugo instantly changed direction. Boom. Stop running. He burst into another empty hallway. Still nothing. His face twisted with frustration. Where are you? Izuku sighed. This is easier than walking. He finally reached the basement. Iida immediately pointed dramatically. Halt. Heroes shall not pass. Inside Iida's thoughts. I must protect the bomb. Stay focused. Don't panic. Izuku simply looked at him. Then quietly projected a single sentence. Bakugo needs help. Iida blinked. Bakugo. Another thought followed. He's surrounded. Without questioning it, Iida immediately sprinted upstairs. I'm coming. Izuku watched him disappear. That worked. The room became completely empty. The mock bomb rested quietly in the center. Izuku walked over. He lightly placed one finger against it. Beep. Mission complete. Victory announced. All Might stared at the monitor. Already. Recovery Girl laughed softly. They barely fought. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. He manipulated the entire battle. Seconds later, Bakugo finally reached the rooftop. Breathing heavily. Where is he? His communicator activated. Match over. Hero team wins. Silence. Bakugo slowly looked toward the empty rooftop. What? His thoughts exploded. How? When? Where did he go? Did I get tricked? Izuku quietly left the building. His hands remained inside his pockets. He hadn't thrown a punch. He hadn't teleported. He hadn't used psychokinesis. He had simply nudged a few thoughts. Nothing more. Outside, Bakugo stormed toward him. What did you do? Izuku calmly answered. You were looking in the wrong places. Don't lie. I didn't. Bakugo clenched both fists. Inside his mind, he made a fool out of me. How? How did he know where I'd go? Izuku heard everything. Predictable. That single word irritated Bakugo even more. Before another explosion could happen, All Might stepped between them. Excellent work, young Midoriya. Izuku nodded once. Thank you. Inside All Might's thoughts, that wasn't strategy alone. He influenced them somehow. Izuku quietly looked away. Please don't investigate. Later that evening, he returned home. After changing clothes, he opened the refrigerator. Only one coffee jelly remained. He smiled faintly. Finally. Peace. At least until tomorrow. Because Class 1A's endless thoughts would start all over again. Life inside Class 1A gradually became routine. For everyone else, not for Izuku. Every morning began with thousands of thoughts pouring into his mind. I forgot to feed my cat. I hope today's quiz gets cancelled. That new hero costume looks cool. I'm starving. He quietly adjusted one antenna. Click. The noise became slightly quieter. Acceptable. During homeroom, Aizawa wrote today's assignment on the board. Rescue training. Pair up. Students immediately began discussing strategies. Izuku didn't need to listen. Their thoughts were already louder than their voices. Ochako smiled toward him. Midoriya, want to work together? Okay. Inside her mind, I hope I'm not bothering him. He always looks so calm. Izuku simply nodded. You're not. Ochako blinked. Huh, nothing. Training began across the mock city. Students searched abandoned buildings for hidden civilians. At least, that's what everyone believed. Izuku already knew where every rescue target was. His clairvoyance effortlessly penetrated walls, floors, concrete, steel. His vision expanded throughout the entire training zone. Third floor, injured mannequin, collapsed hallway, basement, 2 civilians, western rooftop, 1 unconscious rescue target. He quietly sighed. This isn't difficult. Meanwhile, Hiroshima became trapped beneath fallen concrete. Seriously, he pushed with all his strength. Nothing moved. Inside his mind, I can't get out. Someone help. Izuku casually glanced toward the building. Without anyone noticing, the massive slab floated upward. Hiroshima blinked. It moved. The concrete gently landed beside him. Tap. Thanks. He looked around. Nobody was there. Across the training field, Tsuyu searched another building. She frowned. Ribbit. Inside her thoughts, I can't find anyone. Izuku quietly projected a single image into her mind. Second floor. Left corridor. Broken doorway. Tsuyu immediately changed direction. There. Seconds later, she found the missing civilian. Ribbit. From the observation room, All Might smiled. Excellent teamwork. Aizawa remained silent. He noticed something unusual. Every student who became lost suddenly changed direction at exactly the right moment. Again, inside another building, Mineta nervously searched empty classrooms. Please don't let there be ghosts. Please don't let there be ghosts. Izuku rubbed his forehead. There aren't. He telepathically transmitted the location of the rescue target. Mineta immediately celebrated. I found one. Amazing. Izuku sighed. Not really. The real challenge wasn't rescuing civilians. It was enduring everyone's thoughts. Bakugo remained angry. That nerd cheated. Iida continuously analyzed procedures. I must improve my leadership. Mina wondered about snacks. Is there cake after class? Denki couldn't stop thinking about video games. New release tomorrow. Izuku slowly closed one eye. Too loud. Suddenly, a distant crash echoed. Boom. A support pillar snapped inside one of the unfinished buildings. A heavy steel beam began falling toward Momo. She never noticed. She remained focused on another rescue. Before anyone reacted, the beam stopped in midair. It hovered above her head. Momo finally looked up. What? The beam slowly moved aside. Tap. It landed harmlessly. She looked around in confusion. Who saved me? No answer came. Izuku had already walked away. Outside, Ochako finally caught up. Midoriya, did you help everyone? A little. She smiled. You're really reliable. Inside her thoughts, he always helps without asking for credit. Izuku looked away. It's simpler that way. Training ended that afternoon. All rescue targets had been located in record time. Students celebrated. They believed teamwork had improved tremendously. Only Aizawa remained thoughtful. Inside the faculty office, he reviewed the surveillance footage. Every mysterious rescue happened while Izuku wasn't looking directly. No gestures. No visible quirk. Nothing. Principal Nezu quietly entered. You noticed too. Aizawa nodded. He keeps solving problems without anyone realizing. And he makes it look accidental. Nezu smiled. Perhaps he prefers it that way. After school, Izuku walked toward his favorite dessert shop. He ordered coffee jelly as usual. The owner smiled. Your usual? Yes. He sat beside the window. Peace finally returned. At least, until someone entered the cafe. The bell above the door rang. Ding. All Might stepped inside. He looked directly at Izuku. Their eyes met. Inside All Might's mind, young Midoriya, I'd like to know who you really are. Izuku quietly took another spoonful of coffee jelly. This conversation was inevitable. A few days later, Class 1A boarded the bus to the unforeseen simulation joint. The students chatted excitedly during the ride. Izuku quietly sat near the window. He held a cup of coffee jelly. Outside, the city slowly disappeared behind the mountains. Inside his head, the usual flood of thoughts continued. I hope we train with All Might. This place looks amazing. I'm nervous. I forgot to charge my phone. Still noisy. He took another bite. The bus arrived. The massive training facility stood before them. 13 welcomed everyone with a cheerful smile. Today we'll practice disaster rescue. Students looked around excitedly. 13 continued explaining rescue procedures. Izuku listened. At the same time, his telepathy suddenly reached dozens of unfamiliar minds. Violent, hostile, filled with killing intent. Kill the heroes. Find All Might. Don't let anyone escape. Izuku slowly looked toward the central plaza. They're here. Before anyone could react, a swirling black portal appeared. Dark mist spread across the facility. Dozens, then hundreds, of villains stepped onto the battlefield. Tamura Shigaraki walked forward while scratching his neck. Kurogiri floated beside him. Students froze. 13 immediately moved in front of the class. Aizawa. Villains. Shigaraki slowly smiled. How fortunate. All of the future heroes are gathered together. Villains charged. Their footsteps echoed across the plaza. Boom. Before anyone from Class 1A could prepare, Izuku sighed. This will delay lunch. He raised one finger. Not dramatically. Just casually. Snap. An invisible psychic wave expanded across the entire USJ. No light. No explosion. No visible attack. Only silence. The wave passed through every villain. Including Shigaraki. Including Kurogiri. Including every low-ranking criminal. Their movements instantly stopped. They blinked several times. Confused. One villain looked around. Why am I here? Another scratched his head. Wasn't I supposed to? Wait. Supposed to do what? Another looked at the weapon inside his own hands. Why am I holding this? He slowly placed it on the ground. Clank. A second villain turned toward Aizawa. Excuse me, could you tell me where the exit is? Silence filled the USJ. Students stared blankly. One criminal slowly raised his hand. Officer, I think I accidentally joined the wrong group. Another nodded. Same. I don't remember coming here. Was there a meeting? What meeting? Within seconds, the entire invading force forgot why they had come. They couldn't remember their mission, their target, their orders, their anger, their killing intent had completely disappeared. They looked like ordinary confused civilians. Shigaraki grabbed his own head. No, why? Why am I here? He desperately searched his memories. Nothing. His purpose had vanished. He turned toward Kurogiri. Did we come shopping? Kurogiri remained completely still. I cannot remember. Inside the observation room, security cameras captured everything. Teachers watched in complete silence. Power Loader slowly removed his glasses. Did they surrender? Smintos shook his head. They forgot. Aizawa cautiously approached one villain. Who sent you? The man looked genuinely embarrassed. I'm sorry. I honestly don't know. Another villain quietly raised both hands. Please don't arrest me too roughly. My mother will be worried. Students exchanged confused looks. Kirishima scratched his head. That's really weird. Mina blinked. They're apologizing. Bakugo looked around furiously. What happened? Inside his thoughts, someone did this. That nerd. Izuku quietly looked away. Probably. Shigaraki continued struggling. He forced himself to remember. Tiny fragments appeared. Hands. Hatred. All might. Then, a gentle psychic push erased them again. Coffee. He suddenly muttered. I feel like drinking coffee. Izuku almost smiled. Close enough. Minutes later, police vehicles surrounded the USJ. Every villain surrendered peacefully, not because they were defeated, because none of them remembered committing a crime. They calmly boarded the transport vehicles. Some even thanked the officers. Thank you. Sorry for causing trouble. The officers looked completely confused. Inside the faculty office that evening, Principal Nezu reviewed the recordings repeatedly. There wasn't a single explosion. Not one visible attack. An invasion involving hundreds of villains had ended in less than 1 minute. Aizawa quietly folded his arms. It affected every hostile simultaneously. All Might looked toward the paused image of Izuku standing calmly with his hands in his pockets. And he never moved. Later that night, Izuku returned home. He opened the refrigerator. There was only 1 cup of coffee jelly left. Good. He sat down, took 1 spoonful, and enjoyed the peaceful silence. Far away, inside a prison transport, Shigaraki stared blankly through the window. He couldn't remember his own mission. He couldn't even remember why he hated heroes. All he could think about was an inexplicable craving for coffee jelly. Although the invasion had ended peacefully, one presence remained unchanged. Deep within the USJ, a massive figure slowly turned its head. The bio-engineered Nomu. Its blank eyes stared ahead. Unlike the other villains, it possessed almost no conscious mind. There were no complicated thoughts. No memories to erase. Only one instinct. Destroy. Its massive body lunged toward All Might. Boom. The ground exploded beneath its feet. Students gasped. All Might immediately stepped forward. Everyone stay back. Nomu's fist descended. Boom. All Might blocked the strike. A violent shockwave tore across the plaza. Cracks spread beneath both fighters. It's incredibly strong. All Might clenched his teeth. Nomu attacked again. And again. Each punch carried monstrous force. Boom. 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 Students watched in horror. Hiroshima swallowed nervously. That's no ordinary villain. Bakugo frowned. That thing's different. Izuku quietly watched from several meters away. It has almost no higher consciousness. Telepathy won't help. Nomu roared. Rawr. It grabbed a broken concrete pillar and hurled it toward All Might. All Might punched it apart. Boom. Debris rained across the battlefield. Before anyone else could react, Nomu disappeared. Its speed surprised even All Might. It appeared directly behind him. Its massive fist swung downward. Boom. All Might barely turned in time. The impact launched him across the training zone. He crashed through several buildings. Crash. Smoke filled the air. Students shouted. All Might. Nomu charged again. Its only objective remained unchanged. Destroy. Izuku slowly sighed. This is taking too long. He placed the empty coffee jelly cup into a nearby trash bin. Tap. Then, he looked at Nomu. Nothing else. Just one glance. The air suddenly became heavier. Nomu froze mid-charge. Its muscles trembled violently. Gravity around its body multiplied dozens of times. The concrete beneath its feet collapsed. Crack. The monster struggled. It pushed with everything it had. Its legs slowly rose from the ground instead. Question mark. Students blinked. Nomu was floating. Its massive body continued rising. 5 meters. 10 meters. 30 meters. All Might stood up from the rubble. What? Nomu roared furiously. Rawr. It swung its arms wildly. Nothing worked. The invisible psychic force refused to release it. Izuku calmly raised one finger. Higher. Nomu accelerated upward. The clouds split apart. Its body became smaller and smaller. Students shielded their eyes. It's disappearing. Within seconds, Nomu left Earth's atmosphere. Its body drifted silently into outer space. Still alive, still floating, with nothing to attack. Far beyond the planet, Izuku quietly added one final adjustment. Pyrokinesis. Snap. A tiny blue flame appeared beside Nomu. The flame instantly expanded. Boom. A controlled explosion pushed the monster even farther away from Earth. Its trajectory changed completely. Nomu continued drifting endlessly through deep space, never to return. Back at the USJ, complete silence filled the battlefield. All Might stared into the sky. He sent it into space. 13 slowly lowered both hands. Without touching it, Bakugo clenched his fists. Inside his mind, he keeps ending every fight instantly. What are those powers? Izuku heard everything. Good question. Aizawa slowly approached. He looked toward the clear blue sky. Is it dead? Izuku shook his head. Number. It simply won't reach Earth again. Principal Nezu later reviewed satellite footage. Multiple space agencies confirmed the impossible. A gigantic humanoid object had left Earth at incredible speed. None of them understood why. That evening, Izuku finally returned home. He opened the refrigerator. Empty. He looked toward Inko. We're out of coffee jelly. Inko smiled apologetically. I'll buy more tomorrow. Izuku nodded once. Today was the real disaster. Far away, inside Tartarus, the captured Shigaraki suddenly remembered one thing. Not his mission. Not All for One. Not the League of Villains. Only the image of a green-haired student with strange antennae, quietly looking at him with bored eyes. The USJ incident officially ended. The captured villains were transported to prison. The teachers praised Class 1A for remaining calm. Life at U.A. slowly returned to normal. At least, that was what everyone believed. Deep beneath an abandoned warehouse, a hidden portal quietly opened. Black mist spread across the room. Kurogiri stepped forward. Beside him stood Tamura Shigaraki. Although his memories of the USJ attack had mostly vanished, fragments occasionally returned. Small pieces. Broken emotions. Unanswered questions. Someone did this to me. His fingers scratched his neck repeatedly. Blood slowly trickled beneath his nails. Scratch. Scratch. Inside another chamber, All for One silently listened. He had already received every report. The invading force had surrendered voluntarily. Nomu had disappeared beyond Earth. Shigaraki had forgotten his own mission. None of it made sense. Tell me, what do you remember? Shigaraki closed his eyes. Green hair, antennae, coffee. That's all. All for One folded his hands. Interesting. Someone rewrote your memories. He slowly stood. That power isn't a quirk. Meanwhile, inside U.A. Class 1A enjoyed another ordinary afternoon. Izuku quietly sat beside the classroom window. A fresh cup of coffee jelly rested on his desk. He had finally bought more. Much better. Bakugo glanced toward him. Inside his thoughts, he's hiding everything. One day I'll figure it out. Ochako thought about shopping. Iida reviewed tomorrow's schedule. Mina wondered which movie to watch. Denki forgot he had homework. Izuku accidentally heard all of it. Ordinary. Suddenly, a distant thought entered his mind. Cold, violent, filled with hatred. It came from several kilometers away. Find him. The green-haired student. Erase him. Izuku slowly lowered his spoon. They're searching already. Later that evening, he quietly left school. Instead of walking home, he entered an empty park. The sun had almost disappeared. No pedestrians remained nearby. Perfect. He closed his eyes. Telepathy expanded. His consciousness spread across Musudafu. Streets, offices, subways, shopping centers, thousands, millions. Every thought became perfectly clear. He quickly found the one he wanted. Tamura Shigaraki. Inside the abandoned warehouse, Shigaraki suddenly froze. His scratching stopped. A calm voice echoed directly inside his head. "Good evening." Shigaraki's eyes widened. Who? There was no sound, only thoughts. They bypassed his ears completely. All for one immediately noticed the change. What happened? Someone is inside my head. All for one activated several sensory quirks. He detected nothing. No electromagnetic waves. No brainwashing quirk. Nothing. Izuku calmly remained seated on a park bench. His coffee jelly rested beside him. There's no need to keep searching. Shigaraki looked around wildly. Show yourself. Number. Coward. Perhaps. Shigaraki suddenly rushed toward the warehouse exit. He wanted to find the source. Before he reached the door, the surrounding world disappeared. He found himself standing inside an endless white space. There was no floor, no ceiling, no walls, only silence. Far ahead, Izuku stood quietly with both hands inside his pockets. His school uniform fluttered gently. The dark green antennae rested upon his head. His expression remained completely calm. Shigaraki immediately charged. His hand reached forward. Decay activated. Whoosh. Before his fingers touched anything, the white world shattered like glass. Crack. The scenery transformed instantly. Shigaraki stood alone inside a ruined city. Every building had already collapsed. The sky had turned black. His own hand slowly crumbled into dust. What? He stumbled backward. His legs vanished, then returned. The city melted. The ground became an endless ocean. Stars appeared beneath his feet. Gravity reversed. The sky became the sea. The sea became the sky. Every law of reality twisted effortlessly. Stop. Izuku's voice echoed from everywhere. None of this is real. It's only your mind. Shigaraki desperately covered his ears. It changed nothing. The illusion continued evolving. Mountains folded like paper. The moon split into countless fragments. Time itself flowed backward, then forward again. Every impossible phenomenon occurred within seconds. Make it stop. Izuku calmly looked at him. Then stop chasing me. With one final thought, the illusion vanished. Boom. Shigaraki collapsed onto the warehouse floor. His breathing became frantic. Cold sweat covered his body. His pupils trembled uncontrollably. Monster. He's a monster. All for one immediately supported him. What did you see? Shigaraki slowly looked upward. His voice barely came out. Don't let me meet him again. Please. Far away, Izuku quietly finished his coffee jelly. He stood from the bench. Threw the empty cup into a nearby trash can. Tap. That should discourage him. He adjusted one antenna. Click. The psychic connection disappeared completely. Above Musudafu, the evening sky remained peaceful. For everyone else, it had been an ordinary day. For Shigaraki, it had become the most terrifying nightmare of his life. Weeks passed after the USJ incident. Security around UA increased dramatically. Despite everything that had happened, the annual sports festival proceeded as scheduled. Thousands of spectators filled the stadium. News helicopters circled overhead. Television cameras broadcast the event across Japan. Students eagerly waited inside the entrance tunnel. Everyone, except Izuku. He quietly held a small cup of coffee jelly. I wish this ended quickly. President Mike's voice echoed throughout the arena. Welcome to the UA Sports Festival. The audience erupted into cheers. Boom. Confetti filled the sky. Students entered the stadium. Bakugo walked confidently. Todoroki remained expressionless. Ochako smiled nervously. Izuku walked near the back of the group. Hands inside his pockets. His antennae reflected beneath the stadium lights. Inside the audience, thousands of thoughts instantly flooded his mind. That's All Might. My son has to win. I wonder what's for lunch. That green-haired boy looks sleepy. Izuku rubbed one temple. Too many people. The opening ceremony ended. Midnight stepped forward. The first event. The obstacle race. The massive gates opened. Boom. Hundreds of students sprinted forward. Bakugo exploded ahead. Iida activated his engines. Todoroki instantly froze the ground. Large walls of ice spread across the track. Crack. Students slipped everywhere. Chaos erupted immediately. Izuku simply continued walking. This is troublesome. Just before reaching the frozen section, his feet stopped touching the ground. He floated. Barely. Only 5 centimeters. His shoes quietly glided above the ice. He crossed the frozen battlefield without leaving footprints. Todoroki noticed immediately. He isn't touching the ground. Bakugo looked back. What? The first robots appeared. Massive steel machines blocked the course. Students prepared to fight. Izuku didn't. He gently floated upward. 10 centimeters. 20. 1 meter. He silently passed over every robot. The machines never even detected him. Clang. One robot swung toward empty air. Izuku had already drifted beyond it. The collapsing bridge came next. Students carefully balanced themselves. Some fell into the ravine. Others fought over safe footing. Izuku calmly teleported. Hop. He appeared on the opposite side. Distance crossed. Effort spent. Almost none. The final obstacle arrived. The minefield. Explosions echoed constantly. Boom. 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 Students carefully searched for safe paths. Izuku floated 5 centimeters higher. The mines never activated. He slowly drifted over the entire field. Spectators stared in complete silence. Is he even participating? He looks like he's taking a walk. Did he forget this is a competition? Crossing the finish line, Izuku gently landed. Tap. He looked toward the scoreboard. First place. Finished. Back on the course, Bakugo exploded through the minefield seconds later. Todoroki followed. Then Iida. Everyone looked exhausted. Izuku wasn't even breathing heavily. Later, the cavalry battle began. Teams quickly formed. Ochako, Tokiyami, Tsuyu. Izuku quietly joined them. Let's keep this simple. The whistle sounded. Beep. Every team rushed forward. Except Izuku's. They simply floated. 5 centimeters above the battlefield. Whenever another team approached, Izuku teleported a short distance away. Hop. Bakugo charged. Boom. Stop running. Hop. Izuku disappeared again. Todoroki froze the ground. Ice spread across the arena. Izuku's team remained above it. Untouched. The timer continued counting down. Students chased them endlessly. Nobody succeeded. They never attacked anyone. They simply stayed out of reach. 3 minutes later, the buzzer echoed. Beep. Match over. Izuku's team remained in first place. Without throwing a single punch. Inside the VIP room, pro heroes watched the replay. Midnight laughed. That's unbelievably lazy. Mount Lady shook her head. He won by refusing to participate. Endeavor narrowed his eyes. Those aren't ordinary abilities. All Might quietly smiled. Young Midoriya solved every obstacle with the least possible effort. Principal Nezu chuckled. He values efficiency more than competition. Students gathered beneath the arena afterward. Bakugo glared furiously. Fight me properly. Izuku calmly looked toward him. Why? Because this is a competition. I already won. Bakugo froze. He couldn't argue with that. Inside Bakugo's mind, he's the most annoying person I've ever met. Izuku heard it clearly. Fair. The tournament brackets soon appeared on the giant screen. The audience erupted once again. Izuku quietly looked at the names. His first elimination match would be against Shoto Todoroki. He sighed. There goes my peaceful afternoon. The tournament arena fell silent. Thousands of spectators watched the giant screen. The next match appeared. Izuku Midoriya vs. Shoto Todoroki. Cheers erupted throughout the stadium. Boom. Todoroki calmly walked into the arena. His right side radiated cold air. His left side remained completely still. Izuku stepped onto the battlefield with both hands inside his pockets. His antennae remained perfectly aligned. He looked as though he had just woken up. Present Mike raised one hand. Begin. Beep. The match started. Todoroki immediately stomped the ground. Crack. An enormous glacier burst across the arena. Towering walls of ice rushed toward Izuku. The audience gasped. Students expected another spectacular battle. Instead, Izuku simply looked at the approaching ice. Too big. He gently floated 5 centimeters above the ground. The glacier stopped 1 meter before reaching him. The entire mountain of ice froze in place. Not because of cold, because time around it had briefly stopped. 5 seconds later, time resumed. The glacier quietly crumbled into harmless snow. Crumble. White flakes drifted across the battlefield. The audience stared in silence. He erased it. Todoroki narrowed his eyes. Inside his mind, Father's power is enough. I don't need the left side. Izuku heard every thought. Still stubborn, Todoroki attacked again. Another wave of ice exploded outward. Crack. This time, Izuku didn't stop it. He simply walked through it. The frozen walls separated on their own, forming a clear path. He reached Todoroki without touching the ice. Tap. They stood only 2 meters apart. Todoroki prepared another attack. Before he moved, Izuku spoke quietly. You know, those flames are yours. Todoroki remained silent. Not endeavors. Todoroki's expression didn't change, but inside his mind, memories surfaced. His mother smiling, playing together as a child. Training, pain, anger, fear. Izuku gently extended his telepathy. Not to control him, only to remove the emotional barriers clouding those memories. Like wiping dust from a mirror. Todoroki's memories became perfectly clear. He saw everything. The good, the bad, the moments he'd buried. His mother's voice echoed. Your left side belongs to you too. Another memory followed. Ray gently touching his face. Don't hate yourself. Todoroki's breathing slowed. His thoughts gradually settled. I've been rejecting my own power. Because of someone else. That's foolish. Izuku quietly watched. There. A tiny orange spark appeared above Todoroki's left hand. The audience froze. Endeavor suddenly stood. Fire. The spark became a flame. Then another. Heat spread across the arena. For the first time in years, both halves of Todoroki's power activated together. Ice surrounded his right side. Flames danced along his left. Students watched in disbelief. He's using it. Todoroki is using fire. Todoroki slowly looked at his own hand. He smiled. A small one. Genuine. Thank you. Izuku nodded once. You're welcome. Present Mike blinked repeatedly. Wait, are they fighting? The audience laughed awkwardly. They had expected an intense battle. Instead, one contestant had apparently solved the other's emotional conflict. Midnight looked toward the judges. Does this still count? Before anyone answered, Todoroki calmly raised one hand. I surrender. The stadium fell completely silent. What? Present Mike almost dropped his microphone. You surrender. Todoroki nodded. Yes, I've already gained what I needed. The referee hesitated, then raised one arm. Winner. Izuku Midoriya. Cheers echoed throughout the stadium. Some spectators celebrated. Others remained completely confused. Inside the waiting room, Bakugo stared at the monitor. He talked him into losing. Inside his mind, what kind of monster solves fights like that? Izuku heard the thought while quietly leaving the arena. Less troublesome than fighting. High above the stadium, Principal Nezu smiled thoughtfully. Young Midoriya didn't manipulate the outcome. He simply helped Todoroki confront himself. Aizawa folded his arms. Without anyone noticing, All Might quietly nodded. His greatest strength might not be his psychic abilities. It may be how precisely he chooses to use them. Later that afternoon, Izuku stopped by a nearby cafe. He ordered coffee jelly, sat beside the window, and took his first spoonful. Finally, peace, at least, until the next round of the tournament inevitably interrupted it again. Several days after the sports festival, the first internship program officially began. Students departed for agencies across Japan. Izuku accepted an invitation from Sir Night-Eye's agency. Not because he wanted experience. Because the agency's office happened to be near a cafe that served excellent coffee jelly. Acceptable. Hosu City remained busy. Heroes patrolled the streets. Traffic filled every intersection. Everything appeared peaceful. Izuku quietly finished his patrol. His hands rested inside his pockets. The afternoon sun slowly faded. Then, a familiar voice echoed inside his mind. Not through a communicator. Through telepathy. Help. Izuku stopped walking. He immediately recognized the thoughts. Tenya Iida. They weren't spoken. They were desperate. Filled with pain. Stain. Can't move. Too fast. Izuku closed his eyes. His telepathy expanded across the entire city. Thousands of thoughts entered his mind. Pedestrians. Drivers. Shop owners. Heroes. Villains. He ignored almost all of them. Only one mattered. He found it. An abandoned alley several kilometers away. Iida. Injured. Native. Stain. Found you. Inside the narrow alley, Iida struggled to stand. Blood covered one arm. His breathing had become uneven. Native remained unconscious nearby. Standing before them, hero killer Stain calmly wiped blood from his sword. Your anger made you weak. Iida clenched his fists. I'll defeat you. Stain slowly walked forward. Thud. Thud. You came here for revenge. Not to save lives. He raised his sword. Slash. Before the blade descended, space suddenly distorted. A green-haired student quietly appeared between them. There was no flash. No explosion. One moment, the alley was empty. The next, Izuku stood there with both hands inside his pockets. Tap. Stain's eyes narrowed. Teleportation. Iida blinked. Midoriya, you're late. By 2 seconds. Stain smiled slightly. Another student. Leave. Izuku calmly looked toward Iida. Are your injuries serious? I've had worse. Good. Stain slowly pointed his sword toward Izuku. Don't ignore me. Inside Stain's mind, his heartbeat, completely steady. No fear. Interesting. Izuku heard every thought. You're overestimating yourself. Stain dashed forward. His speed shocked Iida. Whoosh. The sword thrust directly toward Izuku's chest. At the last possible moment. Pop. Izuku disappeared. Stain's blade struck empty air. Exclamation mark. Before he reacted. Pop. Izuku appeared behind him. Same posture. Same calm expression. Hands still inside his pockets. Too slow. Stain instantly spun around. Another slash. Slash. Pop. Izuku vanished again. He reappeared sitting casually atop a nearby street lamp. Tap. Still too slow. Iida stared silently. He couldn't even follow the movements. Stain's expression became serious. For the first time, he wasn't fighting a hero. He was chasing someone who ignored the concept of distance itself. Where are you? Pop. Izuku appeared directly beside Native. He gently touched the unconscious hero. Native disappeared. Question mark. Stain froze. Where did he go? Hospital. Izuku answered simply. He had teleported Native directly into the nearest emergency room. Doctors suddenly found an unconscious hero lying safely on an operating bed. They had no idea how he arrived. Stain narrowed his eyes. You can teleport people. Yes. How far? Far enough. For the first time in years, Stain couldn't formulate a strategy. Distance meant nothing. Ambushes meant nothing. Escape routes meant nothing. His opponent could simply appear anywhere. Inside the alley, silence settled between them. A cold breeze passed through the ruined street. Stain slowly tightened his grip on his sword. Izuku calmly adjusted one antenna. Click. Let's finish this. The hero killer lowered his stance. His instincts warned him. This opponent wasn't merely powerful. He fought as though space itself obeyed him. And Stain had just realized. He had entered a battle where escape no longer existed. The narrow alley remained completely silent. A cold wind drifted between the damaged buildings. Tenya Iida struggled to stay on his feet. Native remained safely inside the hospital after Izuku had teleported him away. Only two people stood in the alley now. Izuku and hero killer Stain. Stain lowered his stance. His sword reflected the fading sunlight. Your teleportation is impressive, but every ability has a weakness. Izuku calmly looked at him. Maybe. Without another word, Stain vanished. Whoosh. His speed rivaled pro heroes. He appeared behind Izuku. The blade flashed toward Izuku's shoulder. Slash. Hop. Izuku disappeared. Stain's sword struck empty air. Before he could recover. Hop. Izuku appeared several meters away. His hands remained inside his pockets. Still trying. Stain smiled. Good. Keep moving. Inside his mind, I only need one cut. One drop of blood. Then it's over. Izuku heard every thought. Predictable. Stain suddenly threw several combat knives. Whoosh. 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 The blades flew from multiple directions. Instead of dodging, Izuku simply looked at them. Every knife stopped in midair. They floated harmlessly. Their sharp edges remained frozen before reaching him. What? Stain immediately rushed forward himself. He ignored the floating knives. His sword swung horizontally. Slash. Hop. Izuku vanished again. The sword sliced through empty air. Stain landed. Spun. Charged once more. Whoosh. Again. Hop. Another teleport. Another miss. Iida watched in complete disbelief. He can't even touch him. Stain slowed his breathing. Then, I'll predict your movement. He intentionally left an opening. Waiting. Watching. The instant Izuku appeared beside him, Stain twisted his body. His sword instantly changed direction. Slash. A tiny piece of green fabric drifted through the air. Exclamation mark. The sleeve of Izuku's school uniform had been lightly scratched. Not his skin. Only the cloth. Still, Stain smiled. Finally, he quickly reached toward the loose fabric. Perhaps, a trace of blood remained. His fingers grabbed the torn cloth. He immediately brought it toward his mouth. Exclamation mark. Before the fabric reached his tongue, Izuku quietly looked into Stain's eyes. Their gazes met, for less than a second. Silence. Stain suddenly stopped moving. His body became completely motionless. Starting from his feet, gray stone slowly spread upward. His boots, his legs, his torso, his arms, his sword, his neck, his face. Within seconds, the legendary hero killer had become a perfectly detailed stone statue. His final expression remained frozen in surprise. Tap. The stone sword slipped from his hand. It struck the ground without breaking. Clack. Complete silence returned. Iida stared at the statue. He turned into stone. Izuku quietly walked toward the motionless figure. He lightly knocked on the stone shoulder. Talk. Talk. Completely solid. Iida slowly approached. Is he dead? Number. He's conscious. Inside the stone prison, Stain could still think. What happened? I can't move. I can't breathe. My body. Panic filled his mind. For the first time since becoming the hero killer, Stain experienced true fear. Move. Nothing. Move, please. Izuku heard every thought. Don't worry, it's temporary. Police sirens echoed from nearby streets. Wii U. Pro heroes arrived moments later. Manual. Grand Tory number. Several police officers. They all froze upon entering the alley. Is that Stain? Gran Torino circled the statue. He tapped it once. Talk. Stone. One detective carefully examined the figure. This isn't concrete. It actually became stone. Everyone slowly turned toward Izuku. He stood quietly with his hands inside his pockets. His expression remained completely calm. Manuel finally asked, Midoriya, what exactly happened here? Izuku answered honestly. He tried to attack me. So I stopped him. By turning him into stone. Yes. Silence. Nobody knew how to continue that conversation. Gran Torino scratched his head. Young people these days. Iida looked between Stain and Izuku. Inside his mind, he ended the battle, without even throwing a punch. Izuku heard the thought. It was faster. The officers carefully loaded the stone statue onto a reinforced transport truck. Chains weren't necessary. A stone statue couldn't escape. Still, every officer handled it as though it might suddenly wake up. Later that evening, Izuku quietly returned to his apartment. He opened the refrigerator. Inside waited 3 cups of coffee jelly. Better. He sat beside the window, took the first spoonful, and finally enjoyed a peaceful meal. Far away, inside the police headquarters, dozens of scientists surrounded Stain's stone body. Every scan produced the same result. It wasn't an illusion. It wasn't paralysis. Hero killer Stain had literally become living stone. And no one in the room had the slightest idea how to reverse it. The morning after Stain's capture, police headquarters remained in complete confusion. Scientists surrounded the stone statue. Heroes arrived one after another. Even detectives from different prefectures came to investigate. Every report reached the same conclusion. They had never seen anything like it. A technician sighed. It's real stone. Another shook his head. His heartbeat is still there. But impossible to measure. Gran Torino folded his arms. Midoriya said it was temporary. I suppose we wait. Meanwhile, Izuku quietly attended class at U.A. Aizawa continued his lecture. Students took notes. Izuku slowly finished another cup of coffee jelly beneath his desk. Inside everyone's thoughts, Stain dominated every conversation. Did you hear? He became a statue. What kind of quirk does Midoriya have? Not a quirk, Izuku whispered. Ochako looked over. Did you say something? Nothing. After school, a police vehicle quietly arrived outside the academy. A detective approached Principal Nezu. We'd like young Midoriya's assistance. Nezu nodded. I expected this. An hour later, Izuku stood inside the underground research laboratory. The stone statue of Stain rested at the center of the room. Scientists watched nervously. Gran Torino stood nearby. Manuel remained silent. Even Tsukauchi observed carefully. Tsukauchi adjusted his tie. Young Midoriya, can you restore him? Yes. Without harming him? Yes. Everyone stepped backward. Complete silence filled the laboratory. Izuku walked toward the statue. He placed one hand against the cold stone shoulder. Tap. Time reversal. A faint green glow surrounded the statue. Tiny fragments of stone slowly floated into the air. Instead of breaking apart, they flowed backward. Cracks disappeared. Rough surfaces became smooth. Gray stone gradually changed into skin. Boots softened. Clothing returned. The sword became ordinary steel again. Within seconds, the entire transformation finished. Stain staggered forward. His breathing returned instantly. Gasp. He looked at both hands. His fingers moved again. His heartbeat raced. I'm alive. Every scientist froze. One accidentally dropped his clipboard. Clack. He reversed it. Without surgery. Without medicine. Tsukauchi stared silently. Incredible. Stain slowly looked toward Izuku. Their eyes met again. This time, Stain immediately lowered his gaze. His confidence had completely disappeared. Inside his mind, don't look directly at him. Don't provoke him. Don't fight him. Izuku quietly heard every thought. Good decision. Gran Torino scratched his head. You're behaving rather politely now. Stain didn't answer. For the first time in years, hero killer Stain willingly accepted handcuffs. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He quietly allowed the officers to escort him away. Click. The cell door closed behind him. Inside Tartarus, other prisoners immediately recognized him. Stain. What happened to you? Stain slowly sat down. Don't fight that student, if you value your sanity. The prisoners exchanged confused looks. None of them had ever seen Stain frightened before. Back inside the laboratory, scientists excitedly examined their recordings. Every camera had captured the impossible. Matter itself had reversed. Time had flowed backward for a single object. The surrounding world remained untouched. One researcher whispered, "This surpasses quirk science." Another nodded. Completely. Tsukauchi approached Izuku. "Thank you. You've helped us greatly." "You're welcome. Is there anything you'd like as compensation?" Izuku thought quietly. Only one answer appeared. "Coffee jelly." Tsukauchi blinked. "Coffee jelly? Yes. That's all. That's enough." Later that evening, Izuku returned home carrying several boxes. Inside each box, fresh coffee jelly. He placed them neatly inside the refrigerator. Perfect. He opened one immediately, sat beside the window, and enjoyed the peaceful silence. Outside, the city continued celebrating the capture of hero killer Stain. News stations praised the heroes involved. Students talked excitedly about the incident. The public wondered which hero deserved the most credit. Izuku ignored every broadcast. He had already forgotten about the battle. What mattered far more was that the refrigerator finally contained enough coffee jelly for the rest of the week. Summer arrived at U.A. Class 1A departed for the forest training camp. The mountains stretched endlessly beneath the bright blue sky. Birds sang peacefully. Students carried heavy backpacks while complaining. Izuku carried only one small bag. Inside it, several cups of coffee jelly. Prepared. Pixie Bob welcomed everyone with a cheerful smile. Before reaching the camp, "You'll survive my forest." The ground suddenly shook. Boom. Dozens of earth beasts burst from the soil. Students immediately scattered. Bakugo blasted one apart. Boom. Todoroki froze another. Crack. Hiroshima charged forward. Ocha floated several rocks. The forest quickly became noisy. Izuku quietly walked through the middle of the battlefield. He ignored every monster, walking as faster. Minutes later, Class 1A finally reached the camp. Training continued throughout the following days. Everything appeared peaceful, until, late one evening, inside the forest, a sinister presence entered the mountains. The Vanguard Action Squad. Muscular smiled wildly. Dobby's blue flames illuminated the darkness. Toga laughed softly. Spinner followed silently. Mr. Compress walked behind them. Their objective: kidnap Bakugo. Inside the camp, Izuku slowly ate another coffee jelly. Then, his telepathy detected dozens of murderous thoughts approaching. Kill the heroes. Capture Bakugo. Burn everything. Again. He sighed. This is becoming repetitive. Outside, the first explosion echoed through the forest. Boom. Students immediately rushed outside. Teachers shouted orders. Villains attacked from every direction. Trees collapsed. Blue fire spread across the mountain. Whoosh. Muscular laughed loudly. Where are the little heroes? He smashed through several trees. Crash. At the same time, Dobby launched blue flames toward another section of the camp. Boom. Panic spread quickly. Students began evacuating. Izuku quietly stood beneath the moonlight. I'd rather finish this quickly. He gently touched one antenna. Click. Invisibility. His body completely disappeared. Not transparent. Not camouflaged. He simply ceased existing to every eye. Even his footsteps vanished. His scent disappeared. His presence itself faded. Only the breeze remained. Muscular continued searching. Come out. He punched another tree apart. Boom. Suddenly, an invisible finger lightly touched his shoulder. Tap. ? Muscular turned around. Nothing. Before he could react, an invisible psychic force struck his stomach. Boom. His gigantic body launched backward. He smashed through dozens of trees. Crash. 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 He rolled across the ground before stopping unconscious. Not a single student saw what happened. Meanwhile, Dabi calmly burned another path through the forest. Blue flames danced everywhere. Whoosh. Where are you? Before he finished speaking, someone flicked his forehead. Flick. Huh. A tiny pulse of psychokinesis erupted. Boom. Dabi blasted backward like a cannonball. He struck a massive boulder. The entire cliff cracked. Crack. His blue flames vanished. He collapsed unconscious. Deep inside the forest, Toga suddenly stopped running. Inside her mind, someone's watching me. She looked around nervously. Nothing. Then, she felt someone tap her shoulder. Tap. Eek. She spun around wildly. Empty forest. Before panic settled, a gentle psychic push lifted her into the air. She floated upside down. Her knife slowly drifted away. Put me down. Another invisible flick. Flick. Ow. She gently landed unconscious beside a tree. Spinner never even saw his attacker. Mr. Compress suddenly found himself tied to a tree using his own cape. The remaining villains collapsed one after another. None of them ever discovered who attacked them. 10 minutes later, the forest became strangely quiet. Students cautiously searched the area. They found Muscular, unconscious. They found Dabi, buried beneath broken rocks. They found Toga sleeping beneath a tree. They found Spinner tied up. They found Mr. Compress completely immobilized. Hiroshima scratched his head. What happened? Bakugo frowned. Someone beat them. Todoroki examined Muscular. With incredible precision, Aizawa silently looked around the forest. Inside his mind, Midoriya. At that exact moment, Izuku quietly reappeared beside the camp entrance. His invisibility disappeared. He still held half a cup of coffee jelly. Did I miss anything? Ochako blinked. Midoriya, where were you? Walking. During the attack, yes. Bakugo narrowed his eyes. Inside his mind, he definitely did something. Izuku calmly took another spoonful. Probably. Far away, inside the shadows, one villain remained hidden. Moonfish watched the battlefield from the top of a cliff. His sharp teeth slowly stretched outward. He smiled. Interesting. He hadn't attacked yet, and unlike the others, he had witnessed, for only a fraction of a second, a faint ripple in the air where the invisible Izuku had passed. Without realizing it, Moonfish had just become the first villain to notice that an unseen monster was hunting the hunters. Several weeks after the forest camp attack, the heroes finally located the League of Villains hideout. Bakugo had been captured. Inside U.A. Class 1A gathered secretly in the dormitory common room. Everyone looked worried. Hiroshima unfolded a city map. This is Kami number. The heroes will attack later. But we should rescue Bakugo first. Everyone nodded. Except one student. Izuku quietly finished another coffee jelly. There's an easier way. Hiroshima blinked. What do you mean? Bringing him back. That's the rescue. The room became silent. Before anyone could ask another question, Izuku closed his eyes. His telepathy expanded across the entire city. Roads, buildings, subways, warehouses, Thousands of minds appeared instantly. Heroes preparing for battle, civilians watching television, police establishing barricades, villains guarding the hideout. Finally, Bakugo. These idiots. I'll blast them the moment I escape. Found him. Hundreds of kilometers away, inside the League's hideout. Bakugo sat tied to a chair. Shigaraki stood nearby. Kurogiri remained beside the portal. Dabi leaned against the wall. Toga quietly watched. All for One rested deeper inside the building. Shigaraki sighed. Join us. Never. Bakugo answered immediately. I'd rather explode this place. Inside Bakugo's mind. Where's everyone? Someone hurry up already. Izuku calmly stood inside the dormitory. All right. He gently raised one hand. Snap. A port. Whom? Space folded. Distance disappeared. The connection between two locations instantly reversed. Inside the hideout, Bakugo suddenly vanished. Hop. The chair. The ropes. Bakugo himself. Gone. Shigaraki stared blankly. What? Dabi blinked once. Did he teleport? Toga rubbed her eyes. Where did he go? Kurogiri immediately activated his warp gate. Nothing appeared. There wasn't even residual energy. Bakugo had simply ceased to exist. Inside the U.A. dormitory. Hop. Bakugo suddenly appeared. Still sitting on the chair. Still tied with ropes. Still glaring angrily. Silence. Hiroshima slowly looked at him. Bakugo. Bakugo looked around. What? He looked outside the dormitory window. Then back toward his classmates. Wasn't I? Izuku quietly pointed toward the ropes. You're home. Bakugo stared for several seconds. Then, seriously, Ochako hurried forward. You're safe. Tsuyu quickly untied the ropes. Click. Bakugo stood up. He looked directly at Izuku. Inside his mind, he brought me here, across the entire city, instantly. Thanks. Everyone froze. Bakugo had actually thanked someone. Don't mention it. Meanwhile, inside Kamino, complete chaos erupted. Shigaraki overturned a nearby table. Crash. Where did he go? Kurogiri repeatedly searched every corner of the building. He disappeared. Without crossing any portal, Dabi folded his arms. Someone took him. All for One slowly stood. For the first time, his calm expression slightly changed. Interesting. Space itself was manipulated. He activated multiple sensory quirks. Nothing. No trace remained. Whoever rescued Bakugo had left absolutely no evidence. Minutes later, the heroes launched their assault. Boom. The front wall exploded inward. Endeavor charged inside. Gran Torino followed. Edgeshot appeared behind them. Police units surrounded the entire block. Where's Bakugo? Every room was searched. Every hallway cleared. Every prison inspected. Nothing. One officer reported immediately. The hostage isn't here. The heroes exchanged confused looks. Back inside the dormitory, All Might suddenly rushed through the front door. His breathing became heavy. Young Bakugo. Bakugo casually looked over. Yo. All Might stopped walking. How did you return? Everyone instinctively looked toward Izuku. He quietly continued eating coffee jelly. Walking. Bakugo almost laughed. That's the biggest lie I've ever heard. Inside All Might's mind, it was him. Again. Izuku heard the thought. Probably. Far away. Inside the ruined Kamino hideout. All for One stood alone. He slowly closed his eyes. Someone had entered his battlefield. Without entering it at all. Someone had stolen the hostage. Without opening a single door. He quietly smiled. Young man, I'm looking forward to meeting you. At the same moment, inside the dormitory, Izuku finished the last spoonful of coffee jelly. Finally, he looked at the empty cup. That was more difficult than the rescue. Kamino had become a battlefield. Heroes surrounded the ruined district. Police evacuated civilians as quickly as possible. Sirens echoed across the city. Wii U. Wii U. Endeavor stood beside Grand Tory number. Edgeshot disappeared into the shadows. Best Jeanist secured nearby streets. All Might stepped forward. His eyes remained fixed on one man. All for One. It's over. All for One smiled beneath his damaged mask. Is it? Before either legend moved, another figure quietly walked into the battlefield. Hands inside his pockets. School uniform untouched. Dark green antennae rested on his head. Izuku Midoriya. Heroes immediately noticed him. All Might frowned. Young Midoriya, you shouldn't be here. I know. But he wanted to meet me. All for One's smile widened. Correct. So you're the anomaly. The one beyond quirks. Izuku calmly stopped several meters away. Probably. The surrounding air became completely silent. Even the villains unconsciously stepped backward. Inside All for One's mind. His presence. Completely unreadable. No quirk factor. No energy signature. What exactly is he? Izuku heard every thought. Good question. All for One slowly raised one hand. Countless quirks activated simultaneously. Air pressure. Force enhancement. Kinetic acceleration. Energy projection. Every stolen ability gathered into one attack. Boom. A gigantic shockwave rushed toward Izuku. The ground shattered. Buildings collapsed. Heroes shielded themselves. Crash. Dust covered the battlefield. Everyone waited. When the smoke cleared, Izuku remained exactly where he had been. His uniform wasn't damaged. His hair hadn't moved. All for One's smile disappeared. Interesting. He immediately activated another quirk. Quirk extraction. An invisible force reached directly toward Izuku. Its purpose. Steal his power. The extraction ability connected. For one brief second, All for One believed he had succeeded. Then, crack. A sharp pain exploded inside his mind. He staggered backward. Both hands grabbed his head. Every stolen quirk suddenly became unstable. They clashed violently against one another. Boom. Small explosions erupted around his body. Crimson energy leaked from his arms. His breathing became uneven. What is this? Inside his consciousness, the extraction quirk searched desperately. It found nothing. No quirk factor. No genetic ability. No removable power. Instead, it encountered something vast, an endless psychic force existing beyond biological limits. Attempting to absorb it overloaded the extraction process itself. Izuku quietly watched. I told you, it isn't a quirk. All for One clenched his fists. Impossible. Every ability can be stolen. Not this one. Another pulse of psychic energy quietly spread across the battlefield. The unstable quirks inside All for One began interfering with one another. Fire activated against ice. Wind collided with pressure. Muscle enhancement overloaded regeneration. None of them obeyed perfectly anymore. All for One stumbled again. Blood trickled from beneath his mask. Drip, drip. Gran Torino stared in disbelief. He damaged All for One. Without attacking, Endeavor slowly lowered his flames. How? All Might understood one thing. Young Midoriya hadn't overpowered the King of Evil through force. All for One had defeated himself. The moment he tried stealing something that could never be classified as a quirk. All for One forced himself back to his feet. His breathing became heavier. He looked directly at Izuku. For the first time in decades, there was genuine caution in his voice. What are you? Izuku quietly thought for a moment. Then answered. A student. Complete silence followed. Even the heroes struggled to process the answer. Inside Bakugo's mind, only that idiot would answer like that. Izuku heard it. Accurate. All for One slowly straightened his posture. Despite the pain, he smiled once more. Very well. If your power cannot be stolen, I'll simply destroy you instead. Dark energy surged around his body once again. The ground trembled. Boom. Heroes immediately prepared for another clash. All Might stepped forward. Endeavor ignited blazing flames. Gran Torino lowered his stance. Izuku quietly adjusted one antenna. Click. His calm eyes remained fixed on the strongest villain in history. The true battle was only just beginning. The battlefield remained completely silent. Heroes surrounded All for One. Villains waited behind him. The ruined streets of Kamino had already become unrecognizable. Collapsed buildings, burning vehicles, broken concrete. Yet, Izuku still stood quietly with both hands inside his pockets. All for One slowly exhaled. You've forced me to become serious. Dozens of stolen quirks activated simultaneously. Black lightning surrounded his body. Air twisted violently. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Boom. A massive shockwave exploded across the battlefield. Heroes immediately braced themselves. All Might stood firmly. Endeavor crossed his arms. Gran Torino leapt backward. Dust swallowed the entire street. Crash. All for One disappeared. His enhanced speed carried him directly toward Izuku. His fist gathered the force of countless quirks. Whoosh. Die. The punch descended. Before it landed, Izuku sighed. Too slow. Time seemed to freeze. Not for the world, only for Izuku. Everyone else became motionless. All for One's fist remained centimeters from his face. Izuku calmly stepped aside, then gently placed one hand against All for One's shoulder. Tap. Time reversal. Nothing happened immediately. Heroes watched in confusion. All for One laughed. Is that all? Then, his body began changing. His white hair shortened. Wrinkles disappeared. Burned scars faded. Damaged muscles recovered. His breathing became lighter. For one brief moment, he looked decades younger. Exclamation mark. All for One's smile vanished. What? The reversal continued. His body kept shrinking. His clothes became too large. His voice became younger. Stop. His stolen quirks began disappearing one after another. Not because they were removed. Because his body had returned to a point before he possessed them. Heroes watched silently. All for One became a teenager. Then, a child. His oversized mask fell to the ground. Clank. Impossible. His voice grew softer. His arms became smaller. His height rapidly decreased. No. Stop. The reversal continued. 10 years old. 7, 5, 3, 1. A crying infant now floated gently above the broken street. Wrapped inside clothing far too large for him. His stolen quirks no longer existed. His damaged body no longer existed. His decades of accumulated power had simply never happened. Wah! The baby's cry echoed across Kami number. Complete silence followed. Endeavor slowly lowered his fists. Gran Torino removed his glasses. Did he turn him into? All Might finished the sentence. A baby. Bakugo stared blankly. That's cheating. Izuku calmly caught the crying infant using psychokinesis before he touched the ground. The baby floated gently, completely unharmed. There. He quietly lowered him into Recovery Girl's waiting arms. Tap. The infant continued crying. Wah. Tsukauchi slowly approached. His expression remained frozen. Young Midoriya. Is this All for One? Biologically. Yes. Mentally. Also. Everyone looked toward the baby. There was no hatred. No intelligence. No memories. Only an ordinary infant crying because of unfamiliar surroundings. Decades of terror. Wars. Murders. Countless stolen quirks. All erased by reversing one single person's timeline. Inside Tartarus, alarms suddenly activated. Every quirk linked to All for One disappeared. Hidden systems failed. Monitoring devices shut down. Scientists stared at impossible readings. The All for One quirk no longer exists. Back in Kamino, villains slowly retreated. Without their leader, Their confidence completely collapsed. Kurogiri opened a portal. Retreat. None of them argued. They disappeared into the darkness. All Might quietly approached Izuku. Young Midoriya, you've ended the greatest threat in modern history. Izuku looked toward the empty pudding cup inside a nearby vending machine. Good. Can I go home now? Silence. Then, Gran Torino laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. After turning history's greatest villain into a baby. That's your first question. Izuku nodded once. I'm tired. Everyone stared at him. For Izuku, ending the reign of All for One had taken less effort than finishing a school assignment. The only thing he wanted now was to return home before the supermarket closed. He still needed to buy more coffee jelly. The battle at Kamino ended. All for One had vanished from history. Not through imprisonment. Not through death. His entire existence as the king of evil had been reversed into infancy. The war that had lasted for decades ended in a single afternoon. News helicopters filled the sky. Television stations interrupted every program. Reporters rushed toward the battlefield. Microphones filled the streets. Who defeated All for One? Was it All Might? Did the heroes create a new strategy? Who was the green-haired student seen at the scene? Across Japan, people celebrated. Heroes smiled with relief. Villains disappeared into hiding. The era of fear had finally ended. Inside U.A. Class 1A watched the news together. Hiroshima crossed his arms. They're talking about us. Mina pointed at the television. Look, Midoriya's on camera. A blurry image showed Izuku quietly standing in the background of the battlefield. Bakugo clicked his tongue. They finally noticed. Ochako smiled. Everyone's calling him a miracle. Iida adjusted his glasses. His achievements deserve recognition. Izuku quietly looked at the television. That's troublesome. The next morning, every newspaper carried the same headline. The mysterious student who ended the age of evil. Another article called him the strongest hero candidate in history. Another station replayed the Kamino battle repeatedly. Millions of viewers began searching for his identity. Social media exploded. Who is he? Where does he study? What quirk does he have? Izuku sighed. Too much attention. He quietly stood up from his chair, walked into his bedroom, closed the door, sat beside his desk. Memory alteration. His psychic power spread across Japan. Then, across the entire world. Not violently, not forcefully, just gently. Every television viewer, every reporter, every police officer, every civilian, every hero. Their memories shifted slightly. They still remembered the battle. They still remembered All for One's defeat. They simply could no longer remember who had been responsible. Whenever they tried, the memory became blurry, like recalling a forgotten dream. Inside television studios, reporters suddenly frowned. Who defeated him again? Another looked at the recording. That's strange. The camera clearly showed someone standing there. Yet the face seemed impossible to focus on. Inside the Hero Commission, official reports changed. The section naming the victor simply read, Unknown. Inside U.A. Bakugo scratched his head. Why can't I remember? He clearly knew someone had ended the battle. But the name escaped him. Ochako blinked. That's weird. Iida repeatedly read the official report. The conclusion exists, but the person doesn't. All Might quietly smiled. Somehow, his own memories remained untouched. Perhaps because Izuku had deliberately spared a handful of trusted people. He looked toward the school courtyard. Young Midoriya quietly walked toward the front gate, hands inside his pockets. Peacefully. After school, Izuku stopped by his favorite dessert shop. The owner smiled warmly. Your usual. Yes. Minutes later, he sat beside the window. A fresh cup of coffee jelly rested before him. Outside, children laughed while playing. Heroes patrolled the streets. The city felt peaceful. For the first time in many years, there were no desperate thoughts echoing across Musudafu. No looming war. No immediate catastrophe. Only ordinary life. Izuku slowly took another spoonful. Finally. Quiet. At that exact moment, his phone vibrated. Buzz. He looked at the message. From Inko. Izuku. Don't forget to buy milk before coming home. He quietly stared at the screen. Then sighed. I almost forgot. He finished the last spoonful of coffee jelly. Placed the empty cup into the trash. Tap. Then calmly walked toward the nearest supermarket. The strongest psychic in history. The student who had effortlessly solved every crisis. The boy capable of rewriting reality itself. Was now thinking about only two things. Milk. And whether there was another discount on coffee jelly. For Izuku Midoriya, that ordinary evening was the happiest ending he could possibly imagine.